It's the two S's.
We could dance, but you gotta keep it up a little something like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this.
Welcome to Tech Talk, episode number 4. What are we doing today, Grant?
We are doing bent over rows, Kimmy, and more specifically, bent over row targeting lats and not mid-back.
Lekker. So let's get into it.
As mentioned, the row we're going to focus on is a bent over row targeting our lats and not mid-back. Difference being, mid-back is there to draw scapula together, and what we're focusing on is lats, which is draw the arm or humerus down. So that's more the function we're looking at. Ideally, how we want you starting up, sitting up, feet at hip width. Gives you a nice stable base. Grip just outside hip width. From there, we are then going to focus on hinging our hips back, not leaning too far forward. This means as we hinge our hips back, instead of leaning forward, our center of mass stays nice and underneath the feet, and we feel quite steady. We then make sure that we get as parallel to the ground as possible. Reason being for as parallel to the ground, the higher up you are, the shorter the range of motion, and we want to travel through as much of a range of motion as possible, especially since the row is already training the lat in a shortened position. We want to try have that shortened position be as long as possible. So, hinge down, and then what we want to focus on is pulling the bar towards the hip line. Hip line, hip line. Moving towards the hip line ensures that the action we're following is what the lats function is, which is drawing back. All right, so let's take a look at those same cues, but from the side. Step up to the bar, feet at hip width. Grab the bar just outside of hip width. We're going to hinge forward to be as parallel with the ground as possible, and the elbows drive up and backwards towards the ceiling. The bar is towards the hip line while keeping the shoulders drawn back. Now we're going to discuss common errors. First common error we're going to talk about is body position. This is where often we have a body too high when rowing. Does this often allow you to shift a bit more weight? Yes, but the downside is the angle here compared to being parallel means we get less range of motion being higher up. Common error number 2 is not keeping shoulders set in place. So what we tend to see happen is as we draw the bar, we allow the shoulder to roll forward versus keeping shoulder drawn back, allowing the lat to drive further and further back. So what we see is someone come through, row here, and shoulders roll forward. And common error number 3 is getting too much bicep activation, too much bicep involved in the movement. Ideally, what we want is lats to do most of the work. The more bend we use in the arm, the more bicep we're going to be incorporating, especially if that bar tends to come too far forward. The bar is then getting closer to the body because the bicep is drawing it closer versus the elbow driving back and up, allowing the lat to do the work. So how that will tend to look is we get into our row position and we row up and we pull with the bicep, turning our row into a bent over curl.
Now, Grant, you make that look so effortless and so sexy.
Because it's lightweight.
Yeah, but it looks so good.
More weight on the bar, you'll see me struggle.
It looks good.
As a trainer, Kim, you only have to make it look good for one rep.
And boy, oh boy, you make it look good. Let's talk about how best to apply this in your own training, whether it's for strength purposes or for hypertrophy purposes. Where do you think it's best applied?
So for me, a barbell row fits best into two categories, which would be strength and hypertrophy. With regards to power, to me, there are better options, better row movements to use for power. For example, like a pendlay row, where pendlay row at least gives you a decent rest point in between each rep, so you can really focus on exerting maximal power. Whereas barbell row, fantastic for, obviously, again, a barbell movement, which means strength is top tier. Hypertrophy row is also a fantastic movement. And I think that's also something to think about, just to take into context when I talk about whether something works best for strength or where to put it in your training in terms of strength, hypertrophy, power. It's not saying the exercise cannot be used for a set modality. It's about factoring in, how difficult is the movement to perform position-wise? How easy is it to progress? What are the limitations of the movement for each one of those modalities, and where does it best align? So again, barbell movements to me always will primarily fit into the strength realm, and hypertrophy would be things where optimally and ideally something that provides a lot more stability for the majority of your body and a maximum amount of stimulus to be provided in the lats. So example, barbell bend over row, fantastic hypertrophy movement for lats. Limiting factor, you're going to battle to bend over with a set amount of weight in terms of ideal hypertrophy ranges. So again, if we do strength training, we still get hypertrophy gains, but there is a modality that will then just edge a little bit more in terms of more volume. And more volume comes not just from reps, but let's say more volume throughout the week. And then we go, okay, well, how taxing is a bent over barbell row throughout your week of training from being in that hinged position, if you factor on squats and deadlifts and all of that. So power, better options in my opinion. Hypertrophy, a fantastic tool to use. And then strength, this is just, for me, from a horizontal pull point of view, barbell bend over row is the king of strength pulls when it comes to horizontal pulls.
There you have it, guys. Make sure you add this in your training. And remember, there's a difference between an overhand and an underhand. Today we focused only on the underhand, which is for the lats. All right, great. What's next, Grant? What are we doing next week?
Kimmy, we are going to be tackling quite a cool one. We're going to tackle some carry work, primarily the farmer's carry, and it's quite a nice one. An underestimated or an underutilized movement. A lot of carry movements are just not used in people's training. Obviously, in the strength world, you tend to see it quite a lot. From a hypertrophy point of view, which a lot of people go to, get big muscles, carry work, isn't used as much because it doesn't exactly create the most amount of growth from that sense. But if your goal is moving well, carry work is essential.
So if you're tired of going to the car 3-4 times to get your groceries, then this is the one for you to watch. Stay tuned for next week where we cover farmer carries. Cheers.